You know, guys, it seems like it's one of those things in Hollywood that no matter how much things change, things tend to actually just stay the same. And that feels more and more true every day. Now, we talk a lot about the vibe shift on our channel, and certainly there's an argument to be made that things might be changing in Hollywood, perhaps for the better. I think most people kind of are going to, let school let itself out on that one before they wait and see. But most people are looking for alternatives these days. And I think a big reason for that is you're still getting articles like this about director Andy Muschietti, who was, of course, the director of the 2023 Flash movie, blaming the fans for the fact that his movie, which cost hundreds of millions of dollars to make, ended up bombing at the box office for a myriad of reasons. And everybody who's in the bubble, everybody who pays close attention to this stuff, remembers a good amount of those reasons. Just to name a few, the many controversies of Ezra Miller, which I will get into. I'll at least recap a couple of them here on this, in this video. But also you have the fact that when the movie was being made, it was the end of one leg of the DCEU as it was about to become the DCU with James Gunn. And I think what people want more than anything from Hollywood, apart from actually good movies, and I can't even necessarily say that I hated The Flash. We did a review for it. I actually thought the movie was fine. Like, it was better in my opinion than Blue Beetle ended up being, and probably on par at the same level as, say, Black Adam. All of these three ill-fated movies that were on their way out, it probably caught the emotional beats better than either of those other two movies, at least in my respect. And I like Black Adam. I didn't like Blue Beetle very much. But the problem is that there's certain things that people just won't abide by. And one of those is the idea that a director or an actor gets handed hundreds of millions of dollars to create this product for this studio. And when the product fails, they don't blame themselves. They don't hold themselves accountable. They're not introspective at all. No, what they do is they blame the audience, or they blame the culture. They blame anything but themselves. And the thing is I think in this respect, professionally, most people aren't looking for your, for your honest reaction. What they want is they want to know that you understand that actions have consequences, and they want you to feign some level of humility in the face of this tremendous failure that cost this studio hundreds of millions of dollars. So this was an article from Cosmic Book News. It says Andy Muschietti blames fans for the Flash bombing. Have you ever heard a director pin the blame for his movie's flop squarely on the audience? Welcome to Andy Muschietti's postmortem for The Flash. He's back at it again. In a candid appearance on the Binge-Worthy podcast, he seemed to argue that the film didn't bomb because of creative failures, but because fans never let it compete. This is the quote. It says, people don't see things. They just talk shit. Andy Muschietti didn't hold back when he was talking about The Flash's failure. The movie made $108 million domestically and $163 million overseas for a worldwide total of $271 million, far below what Warner Brothers needed to break even. Muschietti said that the movie was good and that people didn't give it a chance. Quote, a lot of people did not see it, but you know how things are these days. People don't see things, but they like to talk shit about it, and they just like to jump on bandwagons. They don't really know. People are angry for reasons that are unrelated to these things. Okay, so full stop. The first thing I thought of when I thought of this, I'll give you two examples. One from the year of this film, at least as far as I remember, and one from a couple years earlier. From the year of this film, you had Sound of Freedom. Sound of Freedom had a budget of just $14.5 million and got literally endless pushback from the mainstream media, which called it a QAnon movie because it was released by Angel Studios, despite the fact that the film, of course, was not a QAnon movie. It was actually a very sordid tale, a true story about, was it Tim Ballard and child trafficking. And it was nothing of what the media made it out to be. And at the box office, that movie, on a budget of $14.5 million, brought in $251 million because Angel Studios understood the idea of good press and getting the word out for their film. You remember Jim Caviezel had that portion at the end where he said to the audience after the movie was done, you can purchase tickets for your fellow moviegoers. Go to this link here. I don't know. Like, what if DC Studios had Andy Muschietti at the end of his movie say, and here's the thing, I actually liked The Flash. Like I said, I think that Ezra Miller, for all his faults, and we'll get into that just at least a little bit at the end here, I thought he hit the emotional beats quite well. Far more than Black Adam or Blue Beetle. The moments that he had with his mother, that storyline, I thought it all came together really well, despite the member berries, despite the awful CGI in a lot of those sequences, like that Nicolas Cage's Superman bit. But you know what? They knew they knew the meaning of good word of mouth, and that's because people really liked the movie. I'll give you another example. 2021, Top Gun Maverick. Yes, it was a sequel, but do you think anybody in the year of our Lord 2021 believed that Top Gun Maverick, a movie that was a sequel of a movie from 1986, was going to make $1 billion at the box office when the media, the press, and Hollywood studios were still blaming COVID for failures at the box office? It proved the COVID narrative wrong, and it proved that good word of mouth is worth its weight in gold, or at least in the hundreds of millions of dollars for these studios. And if these movies had bombed, I can tell you one thing that Tom Cruise wouldn't have done. Tom Cruise would not have gone out and told the audience, you know what? I made a great movie. It's your problem that the movie failed. It's your fault that my movie didn't do well. Certainly, look at what's going on with his Mission Impossible films. It really did plateau with Mission Impossible Fallout, which made like $1 billion at the box office. And then in the following two films, Dead Reckoning 1 and 2, Dead Reckoning and then Final Reckoning, what you saw was increasing budgets with limited return on investment, yet you do not see Tom Cruise or Christopher McQuarrie coming out and saying, you know what? Tom Cruise rode a motorcycle off of a cliff and you guys didn't go to see it. You're the problem. No, what is he doing? He is going out with every movie that he comes out in a tactic that is now being copied by all of Hollywood, and he says to the audience before the movie even starts, thank you. Thank you for taking time out of your day, for spending your hard-earned money in this economy to come out and see the movies that we make. We are blessed to do it. We are blessed to call this our job. Thank you so much. And you know what? Those two last Mission Impossible movies haven't done the money that they needed to really make their money at the box office, given the size of their budgets. But you know what they haven't done either? They haven't sullied people on Tom Cruise's approach to filmmaking. They haven't given people a reason to feel dread when his name comes up when a new movie is coming out, because they know that Tom Cruise is a dude who is going to put the movie first, he is going to put the action first, and he is not going to treat the audience as if it's their fault when something that he makes doesn't work out that well. And I think that that's a problem for Hollywood if you can't rein in your directors and your actors to do that. 2023 had Barbie, it had Oppenheimer, it had Sound of Freedom. There were movies that got made. There were movies that got made and people went out to see them at the box office. It is not on the audience for not coming to your failed, death rattle of the DCEU. And look, he had that working against him. I would rather he bring up the fact that say, look, we were working against the system. It was a last-ditch effort. We knew that we were on the way out. We knew that James Gunn was on the way in, and that it was going to be very hard to get people to come out for a movie knowing that everything was going to be reset soon. The same thing happened to Aquaman. The sequel to Aquaman made nothing, despite the fact that the first one made $1 billion at the box office. They knew that they were in for an uphill battle. This is on top of all of the allegations and all of the bad press that came out for Ezra Miller, given it was the grooming allegations about Dakota Iron Eyes. It was the choking incident in Iceland. It was throwing the chair at the woman in Hawaii. It was the harassment order from the mother and the 12-year-old child, and he was accused of menacing and inappropriate behavior, behavior and inappropriate attention. It was the burglary charges where he I don't know if it's not allegedly, I guess, because I think he pled to it. But, for the sake of not remembering 100%, the charges were like he broke into a home and stole alcohol from someone. And I don't even think that was the reason this movie failed. I don't think that the average everyday person know that on any given day in Hawaii, Ezra Miller might throw a folding chair at you. They know that the movie got 63% from critics. They know that the rumblings and the press is that the DCU is going through massive upheaval and changes, and they know that the movie just didn't look like something they wanted to. They knew that relying on the member berries of Michael Keaton, and then in later installations you see George Clooney, all of these things, all the member berries, all the things that don't work anymore because the bloom is off the rose on superhero movies. They know it doesn't work. You know that it doesn't work, and blaming the fans isn't going to get you anywhere. They do mention this article about the same thing happening with James Mangold, who did the same thing with the failure of Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Now, these are like two opposite ends of the spectrum for me, as I did like The Flash, more than most people in the space did. I really, really disliked Indiana Jones in the Dial of Destiny, and it's one of those things where it's like, look, this is the guy who made Logan. This is a guy who knows how to make a great movie. Why can you not admit, as an artist, that sometimes you hit the mark and sometimes you don't? Why do you have to put it on these external factors that don't take into account the fact that your movie just didn't work with audiences? I had pulled this back up. This is from a couple years ago. This was James Mangold's quote. Excuse me. He says, "You have a wonderful, brilliant actor who's in his 80s. So I'm making a movie about this guy in his 80s, but his audience is on another level, is on one other level, doesn't want to confront their hero at that age. And I'm like, I'm good with it. We made the movie, but the question is, how would anything have made the audience happy with that other than having to start over again with a new guy? And then here come lifelong heroes from my childhood into my life going, we have something for you to work on. It was a joyous experience, but it hurt in that sense that I really love Harrison, and I wanted audiences to love him as he was, and to accept that it was part of the movie, what the movie has to say, that things come to an end, and that is part of life." Sorry, guys. You guys know I suck at reading. Here's the thing. You know how to tell this story too. Again, I apologize. I'm the worst at reading quotes. It's always the worst when it's dictated like that. Again, this is the guy who made Logan. And after Logan, people really did believe that was the end of that iteration of Wolverine. And with that ending, they felt like they got a fantastic exit for that franchise. You told a story, now granted, not as old as Harrison Ford, but you told an amazing story that left an indelible mark on what the superhero franchise can be when it's given, first of all, given an R rating and given the ability to tell a sad story that ends, but is honestly in a lot of ways amazing for a lot of people, uplifting in a lot of ways, because it was a completionist story for a character that people have been seeing on screen for 20 years. Now, granted, they ended up bringing him back, 5 years later or whatever it was, 6, more than that, for Deadpool and Wolverine. But you told that story, and you know how to tell that story. But back to The Flash, 63% from critics, 81% from audiences. I have that right here. So the people that did go see it didn't have as much of a problem with it as you're claiming to be. And I don't think the reason that people didn't go see it, the reason that number of verified ratings isn't higher, isn't because people talk shit on the internet and said that your movie sucked, because apparently people that went to see your movie actually did like it. No. It was a compounding bunch of factors, not even all of them in your under your control. The studio's control. You were fed this script, you were fed this movie to make, which then had an actor that gave you endless nightmares to promote. And then the studio says, no, wait, we're going a different way. This movie is going to be completely inconsequential. All of the things that caused your movie to fail have everything to do with the studio and people on the industry side of things. When it comes to the audience, this is something where in capitalism, your job is to create a product of value so that the people who work hard each and every day and want to find something to go take a few hours, get out of their mind, and go watch something entertaining, it is your job to sell them on that product and get them to part with their money. If that does not work out, it is not because the audience did so. It is because the studio failed you, the lead actor failed you in promotion, and a whole bunch of other factors. Look, I can't speak to the industry side of things, but I do know that as a consumer, the best thing that I can hear from a director actor is to take accountability for their actions when things work out and take accountability for their actions when things fail. It leaves people with a better taste in their mouths when it comes to what you're creating. Those are just my opinions on it. Again, like I said, I actually liked The Flash. I thought that Ezra Miller hit those emotional beats, especially the part at the end with the storyline with his mom. And he had a lot to do in that movie, given the fact that he was playing two versions of himself. And I am if you're talking in this space, I am the leeway. I am the one who's like, I go to the movies and I'm like, it just looked like everybody had fun. Like, I very rarely, like the worst reviews that I've given to movies in recent years was like Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, and it was the Crow reboot, and those were the worst of the worst for me. So if you're having a hard time pleasing critics, I'm the easiest one to please, and I liked your movie, and I think that you're not putting the blame where it needs to be on the studio and on the actors who made it infinitely more difficult for your movie to work out. But let me know down below what you think, guys. Do you even remember that The Flash happened? It feels like 2 lifetimes ago that The Flash was made, but it wasn't. It was just a couple of years ago that it came out, despite the fact that it sat in production hell for ages, given all of the issues with the DCU. Did you see it? Did you like the movie? What do you think of Andy Machete's comments here? Let me know down below. If you don't know what our podcast is, guys, it is Pop Culture Crisis. We are live Monday through Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is, of course, noon Pacific. We would love to see you there, guys. Later. Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.